The GAO projects that state and local governments' fiscal position will decline between now and 2060. That's 2060, largely due to health care. Because most states and local governments are required to balance their operating budgets, the declining fiscal conditions shown in GAO simulations suggest that the pressures the sector faces and the extent to which these governments will need to make substantial policy changes. Now that's GAO saying between now and 2060s. Even the National Governors Association has put out reports saying it's time for fiscal reset. Folks, in your state, the economies are not going to recover the way you think they are. And in many cases, one of the things we need to show on transparency is the amount that you have on unfunded liabilities for health care, retirees' health care particularly. Thank goodness you're not in New Jersey with over $60 billion in unfunded retiree health care. Pensions, state debt per capita, and we have a chart of that in the back as a handout. But as we look around the states, one of the things that most states realize is many of you just look, and I speak as a former state legislator for 10 years, general fund. Don't look at all funds. And there's this little fund called the Unemployment Insurance Fund. And the benefits have been extended to 99 weeks. And in some cases, your states have bought into more federal stimulus money, and there's a price for that. You have to have more liberal benefits for voluntary quits, for temporary employees, et cetera. And so we find that in some states, like Michigan, they're paying out $4 for every dollar they're collecting from employers. The way they're making that up is by borrowing over $3.5 billion from the federal government. That day of reckoning is coming. In Washington State, they announced that they're going to raise the employers' rates 42% next year. Think of what that does to business in your state. The other challenge you're having, one of the needs for really looking at total transparency, is to look at not only your general fund, but all funds. The governor of the state of Washington had a public hearing a few weeks ago, and she said that in Washington state, the situation's so bad that she and the legislature cut $11.8 billion out of a $32 billion budget. Now, if she did that, that in my math would be about a $20 billion budget, and we have a big surplus. In reality, they cut part of the general fund state, but they increased other funds, so total state spending is up $4.2 billion. In that same meeting, she said that she was at the National Governors Association meeting, and that the governor of New York State said he had cut $40 billion out of the budget in the last 2 years. Now, wow, $40 billion. The New York comptroller came out that very same day and said, New York's budget is an all-time high. It's increased $9.6 billion. They cut $40 billion, and it was up $9.6 billion. You need to look at what's happening in total funds, and there's been a lot of fiscal games played using federal funds. Again, Congress is about ready to give you some more money. Please turn it down because it's going to set you at a higher level of spending, and you're going to find you won't have that revenue next time. But we're finding many states are now looking at what they call the reset. Oregon's looking at it, Vermont, Georgia Senate. And so we're urging you to put all your liabilities in the website, because if the voters and the legislature recognize the total liabilities you have now, you can reset government down to the level that the economy can support it. I can tell you that right now, in most states, your revenue forecasts, no matter what type of tax structure you design, cannot support the current level of state employees' salaries, benefits, and retiree health care costs. That's just not Bob Williams saying it. That's Willie Brown. We're in Willie Brown State. Willie Brown, the former liberal Speaker of the House, Speaker of the Assembly in California, said that when he went in the legislature, he found out that state employees were underpaid. They gave them more benefits. They allowed them to collectively bargain. And now the state employee unions are running the state of California, and they're running into bankruptcy. And that's the issue we have to face. So today, I'm really pleased to be on this panel. And again, I thank the State Policy Network for doing it. We have some really great presentations going on today. Our first speaker is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Missouri. And Missouri, as I mentioned, they were one of the first states out of the ball. They didn't even wait for the legislature. And Governor, I remember when you were the chair of the Education Task Force at ALEC. So this is, well, now you make me feel old. But he's been a very active ALEC member. He was elected lieutenant governor in November 2004. In 1992, he was elected to the Missouri Senate, and he served 12 years. And in 2001, the Republicans gained a majority in the Missouri Senate for the first time in 53 years. Wow, that's a while. As a result, he was elected the president pro tem, and when he ran for lieutenant governor and won, he's only the second president pro tem to win the office of lieutenant governor. And so it's my pleasure to help us warmly welcome the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. I bring you greetings from the Show Me State, where it was 102 when I left yesterday, and where on Tuesday we made history as ground zero in the anti-Obamacare with a 71.4%. As I told Bill Hemmer this morning on Fox when he interviewed me, we put an awesome can of whooping on Obamacare in Missouri, all 114 counties. I'm here to talk to you today about something very practical and really pretty simple that you can all do in your states that we've done in Missouri. And then to suggest one place where we need to take it beyond what we've done in Missouri, which I've kind of tried to get the ball rolling with my colleagues from the House and Senate who are here. And my subject is the Missouri Accountability Portal Project. Missouri Accountability Portal, so we call it MAP. The MAP was created under the direction of Governor Matt Blunt, former Governor Blunt, by executive order in 2007. The creation of MAP was in part responsive to the passage of a federal bill called the Federal Funding, Accountability, and Transparency Act of 2006, and from encouragement from national watchdog groups. What became the MAP was the product of a simple question. How do we as leaders and managers of state government provide taxpayers easy access to information on how and where their money is being spent? Seems simple, right? The issue presented is beautifully simple. Who would actually support making less information available to taxpayers? So you're wearing a white hat. However, the concept of providing real-time online information in financial matters of the state of Missouri was foreign in state government in our state just a few years ago. Missouri state government provided information on contracts and financial matters to anyone who asked. You're all familiar with whatever you call your Sunshine Law or the Freedom of Information Act. Audit reports were also completed yearly, but only at the end of the fiscal year and without a high level of detail in the final product. Prior to the MAP, all of the financial reporting products provided to taxpayers were paper-driven and required manual searches and arduous copying with review by several layers of staff and being treated with all the courtesy of the DMV. Missouri state government is the largest employer in Missouri, sadly, and has a budget of roughly $23 billion. The network of management and staff is relatively diffuse in that high-level management decision makers are centralized in the capital city of Jefferson, but providers of services, of course, span the entire state. Responses to requests for information about Missouri's finances were therefore extremely cumbersome and often required follow-up responses, and state government functionaries could sort of wear out the citizen who was attempting to get information. The time required to respond to financial inquiries was inadequate for taxpayers and also highly inefficient for high-level management. With the advent of the MAP and the website, all financial and relevant contract info can be found at the click of a button by anyone with access to the internet. How did the MAP come about? The snap of the finger? No, it took months, but it started with a uniform and baseline account